Hey guys, it's Superpower User Stan back with another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at something very special. What I've got here is the box for the 16-inch MacBook Pro that came straight out of China and landed at my doorstep a couple hours ago. So what we'll do is do a quick unboxing, a quick look, and a quick comparison between this and my existing 15-inch MacBook Pro. So sit back, relax, let's get to it. So I had ordered this directly from Apple the moment this thing hit the Apple Store, and it's taken almost half a week for it to finally arrive here at my doorstep. So I've been a MacBook owner user for almost the better part of a decade because my very first MacBook Pro was the 2019 unibody MacBook Pro, and I've basically had one every couple of years. Retina MacBook Pro, even the newer ones, and really the 2015 MacBook Pro that came out, the 2016 MacBook Pro redesign. Apple went with a much thinner design, and there's a lot of pros and cons with that. Of course, it was faster and it was more capable, but then you've lost a lot of the I/O ports. You lost the keyboard. Apple went with a slimmer design, so they had to redesign the keyboard, and there was a lot of contention with that because it just didn't feel the same anymore. It was a lot less travel, a lot less, the clickiness it just didn't feel right anymore. So they've been limping along, or the general feel is that they've limped along for the last several years with the keyboard, with the design, and it really wasn't until, of course, this generation, the 16-inch MacBook Pro, where it seems as if Apple has finally gone back to a previous design, and we'll talk about that a little bit more once I get this out of the box. But basically, this 16-inch MacBook Pro seems to be what this design should have been from the very get-go, and they made a lot of changes, a lot of decisions that basically kind of elevated this back up to a pro status as opposed to a, well, non-pro laptop. So, all right, so what we got, of course, is the MacBook Pro, and of course, got the laptop right here. And in the box, you have the charge cable and the documentation with the power brick. Let me just get that out. Usually there's really not much with the documentation. You do get a couple space gray stickers as opposed to the white ones that usually come with the package. So let's get this thing opened up. And as usual, you have this plastic wrap. And inside, oh, this thing's cold. This thing's been sitting out for a couple hours in the cold, traveling. So the laptop, of course, is cold. Let's remove that. And the laptop should power on automatically. There it goes. Right off the bat, I do notice that this laptop is bigger. In comparison, be right back. This right here is my old 15-inch MacBook Pro. This is a mid-2017 high-end CPU with 16 gigabytes of memory and a terabyte of storage. While on the other hand, this right here, this is also the high-end, which is the 2.4 gigahertz CPU that boosts up to 5 gigahertz, 32 gigabytes of memory, and 2 terabytes of storage. So this is basically double of this in every way. Now, as for the rest of the laptop, of course, the rest of the laptop is basically identical to the 15-inch because you got the 2 Thunderbolts on the left, and of course, you have the 2 Thunderbolts on the right as well. And thank goodness you haven't lost the headphone jack, right? So right off the bat, I can notice that the 16-inch MacBook Pro is a little heavier, and I don't know if that's because the way, because it's bigger, the way I can't get a little bit less leverage over it, or if it's actually because it's bigger or because it's heavier. But in the hands, the old one compared to the new one it feels a little bit more substantial. And I know that they claim that the new MacBook Pro is 0.7 millimeters thicker, but in the hand, it's noticeable. Not to say that this is thick or heavy by any means, but I feel like I can feel the difference. It's a little bit heavier, it's a little bit thicker, but it's a good thing because it's a MacBook Pro. It's a pro laptop. It's meant to do crazy things because this thing right here has 8 cores. It's got a lot of storage. It's great. So again, in terms of size, let me see if I can bring you in a little closer to take a look at the size difference. All right, so I've got the 2 laptops stacked on top of each other with the 15-inch on top and the 16-inch on the bottom. And really, the top one is a 15.4-inch laptop. So really, we're only talking about 0.6 inch of a difference in the size. Now, it's important to remember 0.6 inches, it's only one dimension. So when you take into account the X and Y here, what you end up is actually with a quite a bit larger laptop than what maybe 0.6 inches may sound like. All right, so now I've got the 2 laptops stacked on top of each other, and you can see here that I've got quite a bit more space here and here, and side by side, perhaps you can see there is a little bit of a size difference. All right, so here are the 2 laptops side by side, and as you can see here, the 16-inch is a little bit taller, and also the 16-inch is a little bit higher, taller here as well, because you can see just by a little bit, not by much. And if I were to close it, laptop closed, you can see here that is the difference we're talking about. So they were really, they really meant it when it's really not much bigger. 0.7 millimeters. Now that I've got the 2 MacBook Pros side by side, it's time to talk about the keyboard, because the keyboard is really the claim to fame for the new MacBook Pro 16-inch. The old one had the very clicky, very little travel, and it took only a little bit of effort to hit that clicking point. So with a very little travel, very light actuation, it just didn't feel like a substantial keyboard. This one, however, has a lot more travel, and it just feels so much better. Once I started typing on this again, within 30 seconds of me starting typing on this, I'm flying as if I was back on my 2015 or 2014 MacBook Pro. It just feels that good. It's really a shame because they tried so hard with this brand new keyboard and they just couldn't get it right. And bam, you go back to the old version and everything's forgiven and forgotten because it's just that good. Now, other little things about this keyboard, or little things. I'll bring you a little closer so that you can see exactly what's going on when I'm pointing at the little differences. All right, so I've got the 15-inch MacBook Pro on the left and 16-inch MacBook Pro on the right. And right off the bat, you can notice that the power button and the Touch ID button has been separated from the rest of the touch bar, and so is the escape button. Now, what isn't actually very clear, and this is something I noticed right after I got this thing open, is that the Touch ID button is different from the older 2017-inch or 15-inch MacBook Pro. See this right here? This is a very shiny plastic button, while the new one, on the other hand, has a matte cover finish. So I guess it's a little bit more slippery and probably doesn't attract fingerprints as much. The other thing I noticed was that the touch bar is actually elevated compared to the older 2017. You see, this 2017, the touch bar is basically flush with, well, it might be just flush with at the same elevation as the keys, but because the 2019 or the 16-inch, the keys are more raised, the touch bar is also more raised as a result. I also noticed that the distance between the touch bar, the keyboard, and the touchpad, you see the distance here, the thickness of this little bar right here, or the distance between the space bar and the touchpad is very slim, and between the touch bar and the number of keys are very small. While on the other hand, the 16-inch, you get quite a bit more material here and here, and even down here as a result. And that was actually one of my complaints of the older 15-inch, because I would rest my thumb here, but it would be really close to the edge, and it's kind of sharp. And compared to the 2012 and 2015 MacBook Pros, it was quite a bit less. But because of the bigger body, you have quite a bit more space here. So as a result, I think it feels a little bit better, a bigger area to rest your thumb on, basically. The other difference is the inverse directional pad, and this goes back to the older design. I absolutely hated the older one, where you would actually have to look down to figure out if you're pushing left or up, down, left, and right. But the older design with the Magic Keyboard, you can feel your way, and you can feel the difference between this. You got the little blank spot and the blank spot on the right, so you could just hit the buttons really easily without looking. So really, really nice to see these things come back. And I don't know if it was a Johnny Ive thing, but Johnny Ive was saying he wanted to have basically no gaps and whatever, so that he filled in the left and right keys, and then he didn't give the escape. But it looks like someone at Apple here has a lot more sense to make it much more functional, much more easy to use, escape buttons. Overall, the keyboard is a winner. This thing is amazing. So 10 out of 10 for this for this part right here. The last thing I wanted to touch upon was the speakers out of the MacBook Pro. And between looking at the 16-inch MacBook Pro versus the 15-inch, they redesigned the speakers, and the speakers are much deeper, a little bit fuller sound than the older version, and it's a very welcome change. The website where Apple touts this force canceling speaker or mumbo jumbo, whatever. Basically, I don't know if it really makes a big difference about the force canceling or whatnot, but it does sound better, and that's really nice. The other thing is the microphone is said to be a better quality, and from other YouTubers out there who recorded their voice and played it back, it does sound pretty good. Whether or not it's studio quality, that's to be debated, but hey, you can't really complain if you're getting better speakers, better microphone on a newer machine, right? So that's another plus. The last thing I wanted to touch up upon is the power button on the new MacBook Pro. You see, the power button is quite a bit clickier than the old one. The old one just feels like mush, and you're really wondering if you're actually pushing it, while the new one gives a pretty good tactile feedback. Overall, I think the new MacBook Pro 16-inch is an amazing upgrade compared to the old one. We've been wanting a 16-inch MacBook Pro, basically with all the features that's here for the last several years now, and we've been wanting it, and finally Apple has given it to us. So thank goodness, Apple, you listened. What I'll do over the next couple days is run a bunch of benchmarks, comparing the two laptops together, and give you my full final thoughts and full review at a later date. I'll make sure to run gaming benchmarks and productivity benchmarks. In fact, I'm going to be rendering this video that I'm shooting right now on the new MacBook Pro, and I'll see if it gets hot, see if it's able to keep itself cool, whatever. So make sure to stay tuned for that full review of this laptop. Once I get that up, if you want, you can subscribe to the channel, and you'll see it when hit that notification button, and you'll see it when it goes live. So anyway, if you've liked this video, make sure to hit that like button, or if you've learned something, make sure to hit that like button, because it really helps with the YouTube algorithm, and I really appreciate it. So anyway, we'll see you in the next one.